you listen and also practice it, then it gives you experience. So experience is something which is great and which has to be accepted and experienced by everyone. And in Abhidhamma Pitaka is the third one, which contains the ethico-psychological teachings of the Buddha, where practice part becomes more important. So we have, in this session, we have four renowned speakers who would be talking about Abhidhamma and Dhamma from various angles. The first one is Acharya Yashi Phunso. He is the former Deputy Secretary of the Tibetan exile government, and he had been a great motivator, a teacher in the Himalayan area, and he had done lots of teaching workshops and seminars, and he has published 15 books and created a multiple audio-video resource on Dhamma. His teachings are also available So may I request Acharya Ji to speak on Dhamma and Abhidhamma. Venerable Sir.
Good afternoon. After the lunch break, I think the technical session on this subject, and which already the moderator, Professor Dr. Ravindra has already mentioned. And I'm not expert in scholars and intellectuals on the Buddhist thought and Buddhist philosophy and ethics. Being disciples of the Tathagat Buddha and follower of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and many of my root gurus, Khenpo Sankhe Tenzin, Khenpo Kungka Wangchuk, and the lecturer at the Central Institute of Ladakh, Gen Changchup, and many of my previous lecturers and teachers, Khenpo Mingma, and Gen Tashi Sangbo, Gen Shakya Singhi. Basically, I am among the Tibetan Buddhist schools, I am a Sakya traditional school. So therefore, which I have mentioned the several, my root gurus' name, being a Sakya student, so I have learned lots of teachings and lectures. And then, of course, being as former students of the Central Tibetan Higher Study, great scholar Professor Samdor Rinpoche, we receive lots of teachings from the Professor Samdor Rinpoche. I'm very glad to be here today, being a part of these great occasions, the Abhidhamma International Day. I thanks to the Abhijit Ji, our former Khensur Rinpoche Ji, and coordinator Asum Ji. The last few days back, I got a call from the coordinator regarding this today's panel discussion, sharing. Unfortunately, English is not my mother tongue. Hindi is also not my mother tongue. My mother tongue is a Tibetan language and Bodhi. मैं क्षमा चाहूँगा, क्योंकि ना तो अंग्रेजी मेरी मातृभाषा है, ना तो हिंदी मेरी मातृभाषा है, परंतु मेरी मातृभाषा तो बोटी और तिब्बतन लैंग्वेज है। मैंने जो कुछ सीखा है वो बोडी भाषा के माध्यम से, तिब्बतन लैंग्वेज के माध्यम से त्रिपिटक को सीखा है. I learned through the Tripitak from the Tibetan language, on the basis of the Tibetan language, for 9 years course in Central Institute of High Tibetan Study. 9 वर्ष के अध्ययन है. थेरावादा और महायान के भेद में थोड़ा बहुत मतभेद है, क्योंकि आज मुझे लग रहा है कि यहाँ पैनल में केवल मैं ही एक परंतु महायान के परंपरा में बोलने वाले हैं, आने वाले सेशंस में भी और अभी वर्तमान सेशंस में भी. और सिंस फ्रॉम द मॉर्निंग बेसिकली दिस महायान entire the Buddha's teaching has been taken from the Sanskrit. लेक्चर लाई के देव की भाषा से तथागत बुद्ध के उपदेश शाक्य मुनि ने मगधा भाषा में रचाया है, उपदेश दिया है. ये मान्यता है महायान के परंपरा में. एंड इंटायर महायान बुद्धिस्ट प्रैक्टिशनर्स एंड नेशंस, सभी महायान के जितने भी, तिब्बत से लेकर चाहे आपका मंगोल हो, चाहे आपके भूटान हो या नेपाल हो या पूरे हिमालयन क्षेत्र, भारत के पूरे हिमालयन क्षेत्र जो महायान के अध्ययन करने वाले, और चाइना और जितने भी महायान देश के जो त्रिपिटक जो है, बेसिकली वी ऑलवेज बिलीव दैट वी हैव टेकिंग entire the translations from the संस्कृत. तो इसलिए ये भी एक मतभेद है, कौन सा भाषा पुराना है, किस भाषा में कहा है, किस भाषा में तथागत बुद्ध ने उपदेश दिया है, वही एक मतभेद है, वही एक परिचर्चा है. इट विल बिकम अ वन डिस्कोर्स इन वन डिस्कशन. जैसे हम जब छात्र जीवन में होता था, परंपरा और परिवर्तन, यही 2 शब्दावली में दिन बीत जाते थे सेमिनार में, संगोष्ठी में. तो इसलिए ये संस्कृति, जो संस्कृत भाषा से त्रिपिटक, जो भी जहाँ तक हमारे महायान परंपरा के जो भी हमने जो आज आपके चाहे संस्था में हो, चाहे इन द मोनेस्ट्रीज, 108 वॉल्यूम्स ऑफ द तथागत बुद्ध's टीचिंग, 108 जो ग्रंथ जो है तथागत बुद्ध का उपदेश, विच इज अवेलेबल इन टिबेटन लैंग्वेज, वो संस्कृत से ही अनुवाद करके 108 वॉल्यूम्स बने हैं महापंडितों ने, लोसावा ने. फ्रॉम द 7th सेंचुरी टू 17th सेंचुरी सर चंद्रदास जी ने लिखा है कि इंडियन पंडित्स इन स्नोलैंड फ्रॉम द 7th सेंचुरी टू 17th सेंचुरी. तो ये राहुल संस्कृताइन जैसे द स्कॉलर्स, तिब्बत में 4 बार जाना वो अपने आप में ऐतिहासिक है. ज्ञान प्राप्त के लिए गया है. उस समय न कोई हवाई जहाज है, पैदल, घोड़े और खचड़े से गया है. तो इसलिए पहले मैं यही प्रकाश डालने के लिए आवश्यकता महसूस हुआ, क्योंकि आज प्रधानमंत्री जी ने जो पाली भाषा का पुराना एक लिपि होने के नाते जो भारत सरकार ने मान्यता दिया है, आई एप्रिशिएट एंड वेलकम्ड. एक्चुअली इट इज टू लेट, बट फिर भी एक ऐतिहासिक जो बनाया है, मैं स्वागत करता हूं ऑन बिहाफ ऑफ द महायान ट्रेडिशन. मैं आज जो यहाँ आपके समक्ष में 15 मिनट में तथागत बुद्ध के उपदेश और अभिधम्म पिटक का संदर्भ में न बोल पाऊंगा, न बोल सकूंगा, और मैं बोलने में अगर चेष्टा भी करेंगे तो मेरे लिए पाप लगेगा ये पूर्णिमा में. क्योंकि जो त्रिपिटक महायान के परंपरा में आफ्टर दी महापरिनिर्वाण तथागत बुद्धा, the collections and of the Tripitak immediately the first council was held with the help and supports of the Samrat Gebu Magyethag, just after the Tathagat Buddha's Mahaparinirvana. And that is also, we believe that it has been done on the basis of the Sanskrit, according to the Mahayan के परंपरा में. दूसरा, तथागत बुद्ध के महापरिनिर्वाण के पश्चात, after the 110 years, the second council was held in Rajgir, Vaishali. And then the third council was held after the 400 years, the Tathagat Buddha's Mahaparinirvana. Even that is also very different between the Theravada and Mahayan. We believe that in our text, it mentioned that the third council was held in Yul Jalandhar, with help and support of the king Kanishka, Samrat Kanishka के सहयोग से, स्पॉन्सर से तीसरी कंसल जो है वो यूल जालंधर में हुआ है. ये तीनों कंसल के बाद आवश्यकता इसलिए पड़ा कि अगर ये तीन कंसल्स नहीं किया जाता तो तथागत बुद्ध को उपदेश को अनेक प्रकार के रूप में चर्चा बन जाते थे. आज भी त्रिपिटक के उपलब्ध होते हुए भी तथागत के उपदेश को अनेक रूप में अपने आप में समाज के अकॉर्डिंग टू द इंडिविजुअल्स अंडरस्टैंडिंग, देयर इज टू मेनी explanations and description is coming in the 21st century. और आज Vinaya Pitak, as our coordinator, the moderator has mentioned, Vinaya Pitak is not a rules and regulation. It mentioned, it taught that Buddha's, the ordinance of the bhikshu and bhikkhuni. Ordinance, the vows. Rules and regulation में हमें वादा नहीं करना पड़ता है. We need not to. The ordinance and vows में we have to accept from your root guru. 253 vows ruled the norms of the monks and nuns since from the Buddhahood till today. It is relevant. At that time and present, and it will be relevant till the end of this universal. जब तक ये संसार रहेंगे तब तक ये आवश्यकता पड़ेंगे और रेलिवेंट होगा. दूसरा, सूत्र पीठक and Abhidhamma Pitak is not only for the underlined for the Buddhist practitioners. तथागत बुद्ध ने ये नहीं कहा कि सूत्र पीठक और अभिधम्म पीठक जो है केवल बुद्ध अनुयायी के लिए है, बाकी लोगों के लिए नहीं है, ये नहीं किया है. Sutra Pitak, Abhidhamma Pitak is for the universal. It is not necessary that only the Buddhist peoples will be just to do the studies. सभी सांसारिक लोगों के लिए तथागत बुद्ध ने तो दिया है. परंतु as a special the followers, एक डिसाइपल होने के नाते बुद्धिस्ट लोगों को ज़्यादा जिम्मेदारी है, कर्तव्य है, much and more responsibilities. And then in the Sutra Pitak, Vinaya Pitak is higher training of the ordinance of the monks and nuns, and Sutra Pitak is higher training of the meditation. Abhidhamma Pitak is more or less a higher training of the wisdom. Shirab Killo Kekova. And then according to the Mahayan, हमारे परंपरा में अभिधम्मा तथागत बुद्ध के उपदेश में actually in depth we will go through the conjure, then it will be very difficult to get understand, to get a catch up. Ngomba Detun. On the basis of the Ngomba Detun, On the basis of the Wompa, there is text of the Buddha's teaching from these three consults. The great eminent scholar of the Nalanda, which is always mentioned, Acharya Vasubandhu has worked on the Abhidhamma Koshkarika. Entire the Tibetan monastic institutions or the Central Institute of High Tibetan Studies or the Ladakh and whatever, Himalayan regions, wherever the Mahayan traditional schools, if you study on the Tripitak, when we do studies the Abhidhamma Pitak, in depth and detail, Acharya Vasubandhu ने लोबे इन्हें ने जो रचाया है, the 8 chapters of the Abhidhamma Kosh, तो उसकी अनुसार हम लोगों को अध्ययन करते हैं, नजदीक से अभिधम्मा पिटक को जानने का और ज्ञान प्राप्त करने का, शिक्षा और प्रयोग में लाने का जीवन में। और अभिधम्मा पिटक के विशेष करके मूल के परिप्रेक्ष्य में, क्योंकि मुझे तो यहाँ अभी शुरू करते ही समय समाप्त हो गया करके यहाँ मॉडरेटर दिखा रहा है, तो इसलिए हमेशा परम पूज्य दलाई लामा जी सभी बौद्ध के अनुयायी लोगों से अनुरोध करते हैं कि बौद्ध के आध्यात्मिक को जानना चाहिए, सीखना चाहिए। जब तक आपको विश्वास नहीं होगा तब तक तो मुश्किल है, क्योंकि आजकल तो मुझे देखने को सुनने को मिलता है कि अभिधम्मा पिटक तो तथागत बुद्ध का उपदेश नहीं है कहने वाले भी है, वो भी बौद्ध धर्म के चोला पहनते हुए। अगर तथागत बुद्ध के उपदेश में संकोच है, अपने धर्म से तो कुछ मिले नहीं होंगे, लेकिन परंतु बौद्ध धर्म को अपनाया और अपनाने के बाद अपने आप को दुविधा में है, कंफ्यूज में है, कॉन्फ्लिक्ट में है, लेकिन बौद्ध के सच्चा अनुयायी लोगों को भी कंफ्यूज और कॉन्फ्लिक्ट में डालने वाले भी बहुत सारे आजकल प्राप्त हो रहा है। तो इसलिए मैं इतना ही अनुरोध करूंगा कि चाहे थेरावादा हो चाहे महायान हो, दोनों बौद्ध का अनुयायी है, उसमें कोई दुविधा नहीं है। चाहे पाली भाषा का हो चाहे संस्कृत भाषा में हो, लेकिन अपने अपने अनेक देशों में अपना अनुवाद है। हम लोगों को संस्कृत पढ़ने का आवश्यकता नहीं है, क्योंकि पूरा उपलब्ध है तिब्बती भाषा में, एवरीथिंग इज एग्जिस्ट। सारनाथ के अपने केंद्रीय तिब्बती उच्च शिक्षा संस्थान में जाइए, सब आपको मिलेगा। पूरे भारत के जहाँ हिमालयन क्षेत्र में या तिब्बतन मोनेस्ट्री में जाइए, वो कंजू तेंजुर उपलब्ध होगा। 225 volumes of the commentaries on the Tathagat Buddha's teaching from the Nagarjuna to till the date of 17th century. Only the Indian scholars, तिब्बती चारों संप्रदाय के लोगों ने तो लिखित तो अनगिनत है, काउंटलेस। तो इसलिए जिस परंपरा का भी हो, मतभेद होने का आवश्यकता नहीं है, आस्था होना चाहिए, विश्वास होना चाहिए। देन टू लर्न एंड टू गेट, देन टू टीच। मैं तो आजकल अनेक, जैसे हमारे मॉडरेटर प्रोफेसर ने कहा कि दिस डेज आई यूज्ड टू गो इन टू मेनी इंटर रिलीजियस कॉन्फ्रेंस विच इज ऑर्गेनाइज्ड बाय द नॉन बुद्धिस्ट, क्रिश्चियन, इस्लामिक, जैन, सनातन धर्म, दे टू ऑर्गेनाइज numerous inter religious. So I get a really opportunity to go there, to enter there. But then I always say in the general public, without the adhyatmic education, बिना ट्रेडिशनल एजुकेशन से the modern education is nothing. आध्यात्मिक शिक्षा होने के बाद अगर आपको आधुनिक शिक्षा है तो then you will smoothly you can carry on your life. Only आधुनिक शिक्षा is a suicide education. नौकरी नहीं मिल रहा है सुसाइड करेंगे, मार्क्स प्राप्त अच्छा नहीं हुआ करके सुसाइड करेंगे. तो so the entire the education system which is always taught, the I think Delhi government and many Himachal government and many government has adopted happiness curriculum. तो ये चीज भिक्षु और भिक्षुणी तो हम लोग अध्ययन करेंगे, परंतु सामान्य लोगों के लिए करिकुलम जो है वो बनाने के लिए कई बार परम पूज्य दलाई लामा जी ने प्रकाश डाला है, अनुरोध किया है. एंड दिस थिंग्स आई थिंक आई विल रियली रिक्वेस्ट एंड अप्रिशिएट द IBC. For the last 3 years I've been based in Delhi. I've seen an opportunity to attend a numbers of the programs. With these words I can stop my the subject which has given to me, जो मुझे विषय दिया है उस पर मैं अपने वाणी को विराम करता हूँ. और समय के अनुसार कार्यक्रम के अनुसार बहुत सारे यहाँ कहने के लिए नहीं है, तो इसलिए मैं आई होप at least to highlight on the basis of the महायान के परंपरा और महायान के भी, इसलिए बौद्धी भाषा को भारत सरकार मान्यता देना चाहिए. If the Bodhi Bhasha is not, I think, the recognized, then the entire Himalayan and the Tibet and the Bhutan and in Nepal and in many of nations के बौद्ध धर्म भी लुप्त हो सकता है, दुर्लभ हो सकता है. चाइना इज डिस्ट्रॉइंग, मैं पॉलिटिकल नहीं डाल रहा हूं, वास्तविकता जो कह रहा हूं. तो इसीलिए बोधी भाषा को भी, जैसे मराठी भाषा को मान्यता दिया है, पाली भाषा को दिया है, संस्कृत तो ऑलरेडी मान्यता है, तो बोधी भाषा को मान्यता जोड़ लगाना चाहिए. इन्हीं भिंती के साथ मैं अपने बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूँ, साधुवाद देता हूँ. थैंक यू.
There is one truth, that time doesn't stop. And that is why, I was showing you the paper, because there are other scholars also, they have to present their paper. And then we have a second session also, so that is why, this restriction was there. I now invite Bhadant Rahul Bodhi ji to speak on Dhamma and Abhidhamma. Bodhi ji, Rahul Bodhi ji is an erudite scholar of Pali and Abhidhamma. He has been giving lots of lectures, and in YouTube there are a big following. And he's also a practitioner of Abhidhamma, both the theory and the practice. I request Venerable Bodhi, Dhamma Bodhi ji to speak. Yeah, that's it. So 15 minutes again, I request, yeah. There is a time limit.
Yes.
We have to finish it in 15 minutes.
Yes, sir. चिरं तिष्ठन्तु सद्धम्मो लोको हन्तु सुखी सदा यानिध भूतानि समागतानि भूमानि वायानि व अन्तलिखे तथागतं देवमनुष्यपूजितं बुद्धं नमस्सामि सुवत्ति होतु. First of all, I thank you very much, the moderator, Dr. Ravindra Pantaji, and really many, many thanks to IBC. Because of IBC, this program is being organized, and with the hard worker in IBC, Honorable Haldarkar ji, General Secretary Haldarkar ji is the DG, General Secretary Jangchuk Rinpoche, and many others, the very big team of IBC. Always they are organizing very educated and very important programs for the public. So I thank you very much. Today's program was just Abhidhamma Diwas, and the central government has given the status of classical language as a Pali language. So Pali language become a classical language, and that was the demand of many years, many persons. Because in Theravada Buddhism, that is mostly the teaching of Buddha is we found in Pali language. Buddha used to speak Pali and Sanskrit also. Those days Sanskrit language was the language of well-educated people. But Pali language was the common people, the workers, the laborers, and all walks of life, common people. So Buddha decided, I have to give the Dhamma for the happiness and the development of all kinds of people, not only educated class, but all people should know the Dhamma, because Dhamma is very important in everybody's life. Dhamma is the way of life. How can you brighten your life and how can you make your life holy? That is the path Buddha shown in his dialogues and in his teaching. तो आज जो अभिधम्म और धम्म इसमें क्या अंतर है? तो धम्म एक कॉमन लैंग्वेज में धम्म कहा जाता है, सर्वसामान्य भाषा में धम्म यानी व्यवहारिक इसमें, लेकिन उसके डिटेल में जाओ बहुत गहराई में तो उसे कहते अभिधम्म यानी हायर टीचिंग ऑफ बुद्धा. दिस इज द कॉमन टीचिंग ऑफ बुद्धा एंड देन हायर टीचिंग ऑफ बुद्धा. तो अभिधम्म में तथागत बुद्ध ने मानव के बड़े सूक्ष्म उनका दर्शन कराया कि मानवीय शरीर, इसे तो नाम और रूप बोलते हैं, नाम और रूप. फिर पंचस्कंद बोलते हैं. मनुष्य का जीवन पंचस्कंद, नाम रूप वेदना संज्ञा और संस्कार, ये हो गई अभिधम्म पिटक की लैंग्वेज. यानी हर एक व्यक्ति, हर एक स्त्री पुरुष 5 स्कंदों से ही बना हुआ है. उसका सूक्ष्म विश्लेषण हुआ. जैसे मन को माइंड कहते हैं या मन कहते हैं, लेकिन उधर सूक्ष्म तरह से अभिधम्म में समझाया गया है कि मनुष्य का मन 52 प्रकार के चैतसिकों से बना हुआ है. आप सभी का मन. दूसरी जगह उसी को तथागत बुद्ध कहते हैं कि 121 प्रकार का मन है हर एक का, हमेशा बदलते रहता है. दूसरी जगह 89 प्रकार का मन बताया है. तो यह मन का इतना गंभीर और सूक्ष्म विश्लेषण ये अभिधम्म में किया है. तो इसे अभिधम्म कहते हैं कि जो मन का विश्लेषण बड़े सूक्ष्मता से, माइंड और मैटर का विश्लेषण बड़ी सूक्ष्मता से अभिधम्म में हायर स्टडी के नाम से तथागत बुद्ध ने किया है. रहा सवाल महायानी और थेरवाद का, हम तो समझते हैं कि ये बात तो छोटे मोटे छोटे मोटे नियमों पर है। लेकिन फिलॉसफी यदि देखी जाए तो दलाई लामा जी भी कहते थे कि पंचशील, ये तो महायानियों में भी है, थेरवादियों में भी पंचशील है। मूल रूप से थेरवादियों में उसे बहुत ऊंचा दर्जा दिया जाता है। अष्टशील, दशशील, ये तो दोनों परंपरा में हमें दिखाई देते हैं। आर्य अष्टांगिक मार्ग, ये थेरवादियों में भी है और महायानियों में भी है, आर्य अष्टांगिक मार्ग। फिर श्रोतापन्न, सकृदागामी, अनागामी, अरहत को वर्तमान जीवन में पा लेना, मृत्यु के बाद नहीं, वर्तमान जीवन में अरहत व अवस्था को पाया जाता है। इस पर बहुत जोर दिया है थेरवादी परंपरा ने। मुझे लगता है महायानी परंपरा में भी वो होगा, मुझे उतना उसका स्टडी नहीं है। लेकिन अरहत बनने का कोई आदमी मृत्यु के बाद अरहत कभी नहीं बनता है। जीते जी अरहत बना जा सकता है, वो रास्ता है तथागत बुद्ध ने बताया, सभी के लिए बताया। कोई मतभेद नहीं, कोई जात पात नहीं, कोई डिस्क्रिमिनेशन नहीं, ऊंच नीचता नहीं, सभी को बुद्ध ने इकट्ठे लाया। बुद्ध ने कभी जात पात नहीं मानी। बुद्ध के समय जात पात मानी जाती थी, वर्गभेद था, ब्राह्मण वर्ग था, क्षत्रिय वर्ग था, वैश्य वर्ग था, ऐसे वर्गभेद थोड़ी जाति वहां दिखाई देती है। लेकिन बुद्ध ने उन्हें तोड़ने का प्रयास किया। उन पर बहुत उन्होंने जातीयता पर बहुत जोर नहीं दिया, उन्होंने कहा उसको अबॉलिश किया जातीयता को। इसीलिए बुद्ध ने जो दीक्षा दी, पंचवर्गीय दीक्षा तो 5 ब्राह्मणों को दी। ये स वप भद्य महानाम आदि 5 ब्राह्मण। उसके बाद पहले पहले तो ब्राह्मणों की संख्या बहुत अधिक मात्रा में थी संघ में, लेकिन बुद्ध ने यह जातीयता पर जोर नहीं दिया, उसे तोड़ने का प्रयास किया, सभी वर्ग के लोगों को लिया। वैसे बुद्ध का जो क्लास था उस समय, वो तो क्षत्रिय वंश से थे, बड़े अभिमानी कि हम तो योद्धा है, लड़वैये है, बड़े शूरवीर है, ऐसे मानते थे। लेकिन बुद्ध कहते नहीं, कोई भी शूरवीर बन सकता है, जो कोई अभ्यास करे, जो कोई ट्रेनिंग ले, कोई भी बन सकता है। ये ऐसा नहीं कि केवल इसी जाति के बनेंगे। और ये अभिमान तोड़ने के लिए देखो, एक बड़ी बात बुद्ध ने क्या क्या कि मालूम है कि जब क्षत्रिय लोग 5-6 लोग, उनके परिवार के आनंद, देवदत्त, महानाम आदि 5-6 लोग जब आए भिक्षु बनने के लिए, तो वे 5 लोग जब आए, उनके साथ साथ उपाली भी आ गया। उपाली उनके उस राजघराने में नाई का काम करता था, हजामत बनाने का काम करता था, तो थोड़ा छोटी जाति का माना जाता था, वो भी आया। तो 6 लोग जब 5-6 लोग आए, तब उन्होंने क्या किया बुद्ध ने, ये जो क्षत्रिय है बड़े गर्विष्ठ होते हैं, जाति का बड़ा अहंकार है इनमें, लेकिन हमारे संघ में कोई जात पात नहीं। तो उन्होंने क्या किया, सर्वप्रथम उपाली को उन्होंने धम्म दीक्षा दी, उपाली को भिक्षु की दीक्षा दी, और उपाली को उनको सीनियर बना दिया। और उपाली को सीनियर बनाकर आनंद है, उसमें महानाम है, देवदत्त है, उनको उससे नीचा बना दिया है। क्योंकि थेरवादी परंपरा में जो दीक्षा या कोई भी परंपरा में उनके दीक्षा से उनकी सीनियरिटी मापी जाती है। तो उन्होंने इनको सीनियर बना दिया, उपाली को, और कहा कि तुम अपने सीनियर को प्रणाम करो। कितना बड़ा ये क्रांतिकारी कदम है, कितना बड़ा क्रांतिकारी कदम है कि जिस राजघराने में उपाली सेवक का काम करता है, माली का काम करता है, नाई का काम करता है, उसी को ऊपर चढ़ाकर उन्होंने उनके जो मालिक थे उनको कहा कि तुम मुझसे छोटे हो, तुम्हारी दीक्षा बाद में हुई है, और उनको सीनियर बनाया। और यही उपाली जब पहली संगीति हुई बुद्ध के परिनिर्वाण के 90 दिन बाद, 3 महीनों के बाद त्रिपिटक में आता है। 3 महीने के बाद संगीति हुई राजगृह में। राजा अजात शत्रु ने पूरी तरह उनको सपोर्ट किया उस संगीति को, और वो संगीति त्रिपिटक का संकलन करने के लिए कि बुद्ध ने जीवन भर क्या सिखाया, चलो उन्हें हम संकलित करें। ये करने के लिए 6 माह तक वो संगीति बैठी। 500 अर्हत उसमें थे। आनंद अर्हत नहीं हुआ था, लेकिन आनंद एकदम संगीति के दिन अर्हत बन गया, और अपने अर्हत बल से वो 500 लोगों के कतार में आकर बैठ गया। लंबी कहानी है। तो ये पहली संगीति बुद्ध के परिनिर्वाण के 3 माह बाद हुई, ऐसी रिकॉर्डेड है पाली त्रिपिटक में। और जो बाबा साहब ने भी सभी धर्म का बड़ा अध्ययन किया। आधुनिक युग में जितने भी प्रचलित धर्म हैं, सभी को बाबा साहब ने बहुत वैज्ञानिक ढंग से पढ़ा, सभी प्रचलित धर्म को, और बुद्ध धर्म को भी पढ़ा, महायान को भी पढ़ा, थेरवादा को भी उन्होंने पढ़ा। लेकिन उन्हें अच्छा लगा कि जो थेरवादी जो परंपरा है, जो पाली टेक्स्ट में है, उन्हें थोड़ा प्रामाणिक अच्छा मानकर, और उनके ऊपर उन्होंने डिक्शनरी भी लिखी, और जो दीक्षा देते समय उन्होंने थेरवादी परंपरा से दीक्षा दी है। और बुद्ध भी उसी परंपरा से रहते थे, और महायानी और थेरवादियों में तो कोई ज़्यादा भेद हमें नहीं मानना चाहिए। हम सभी एक ही है, बुद्ध के ही शिष्य है, और हमें जो कुछ बीच में मिसअंडरस्टैंडिंग होगी तो हमें उसे मिटाना है, और समाज के लिए, लोगों के लिए, मानवता के लिए हमें काम करना है। यही मैं आज के समय में, समय भी अभी नहीं है, तो सभी को बहुत बहुत मैं धन्यवाद देता हूँ, और विशेष रूप से हमारे भारत सरकार को धन्यवाद, क्योंकि पाली भाषा को उन्होंने जो क्लासिकल लैंग्वेज का दर्जा दिया, और ये दर्जा दिलाने में आईबीसी का भी बहुत बड़ा रोल रहा है, हमारे बहुत लोगों का रोल रहा है। और आईबीसी को विशेष रूप से धन्यवाद देता हूँ कि आपने हरदलकर जी यहाँ पर है, हल्दर जी जो डीजी है, आप थोड़ा सा नेतृत्व करके महायानी और थेरवाद परंपरा के ऐसे लोगों की एक सामुदायिक कोई मीटिंग या कोई कॉन्फ्रेंस लेकर कि दोनों एक दूसरे को समझे और मैत्री बढ़ाए और धम्म के लिए, लोगों के लिए काम करे, ऐसी अपेक्षा मैं हमारे आईबीसी से करता हूं, और सभी को धन्यवाद देता हूं। सबका मंगल हो, सबका मंगल हो। भवतु सब्बा मंगलम, भवतु सब्बा मंगलम।
Thank you, Bhante. You rightly said that both Abhidhamma and Dhamma ये सार्वजनीन है, ये सबके लिए है, and that is the thing which is reflected from the entire literature, Buddhist literature. And today morning also, our Honorable Prime Minister said that how India, because of the wisdom of our past seers and a part of Indian culture, have been uniting people, not disintegrating or breaking them. So this was a great message. Thank you for this. Friends, we go ahead. Time doesn't stop for anyone. We have 2 more speakers. And I now request Bhikkhuni Shakya Dhammadinna to present her views. And I would like to tell you that she's the only living nun who's preaching Abhidhamma and motivating people to come and join. And she has been working for she's motivating young girls to come to Dhamma, and she's trying to make them, give training, etc. to them. And today she'll be speaking on the impact of studying Abhidhamma on women, mental health and well-being. This is something, people don't understand that, how much important is to give empowerment to the women, and she's working for that. And she's a gold medalist in master's course from Nagpur University and an erudite scholar. And she has a lot of followers in YouTube and online courses she's giving. So, Venerable, I request you to present your views.
Thank you so much, Ravindra Panchi. We will start with the homage to Triple Gems, and I pay my respect to my teachers and to the venerables present here. Namo Buddhaya to everyone. Today, it's a great honor to be a part of Abhidhamma Diwas, the inauguration ceremony of International Abhidhamma Diwas, and also the great day for the recognition of Pali as a classical language. We have heard already about the Pali language and what is the benefit when a language is recognized as a classical language. Today I'll be talking about Abhidhamma. As you have heard my topic, it's a quite different topic because I know that a very few female are here now. Most of the male are here, but still, why we think that Abhidhamma, when it comes to Abhidhamma, we usually think that Abhidhamma is a difficult part of Dhamma, and we do not need to study that. Sutta Pitaka is enough to study. Mostly, I work in north and west of India. और जब भी हम लोग वहाँ जाते हैं तो अक्सर जब भी अभिधम्मा की बात होती है यूजुअली पीपल से वी डोंट नीड टू स्टडी अभिधम्मा एज Bhante has said already that some people believe that Abhidhamma was not from Buddha, it was created later. But when we study Sutta, we see that in Sutta also there are many things which are explained in Abhidhamma. Like when we study the Sutta, it comes the 5 aggregates, Panchakhanda we say, Ayatana, elements, bases. So all these things are very well explained in Abhidhamma. If I tell you my personal experience, जब से मैंने अभिधम्मा पढ़ना शुरू किया, तब से जो अपने माइंड को मिनटली ऑब्जर्व करने की जो क्षमता है, वो बहुत ज़्यादा बढ़ गई, बहुत ज़्यादा बढ़ गई. अगर हम लोग सुत्त पिटक में भी पंचस्कंध, आयतन, धातु, इसके विषय में पढ़ते हैं और उन्हीं चीज़ों को अभिधम्मा में और एक्सप्लेन करके दिया गया है, और फिर भी अगर हम अभिधम्मा को स्वीकार नहीं करते हैं तो इसका मतलब हम कहीं ना कहीं सुत्त को भी स्वीकार नहीं करते हैं, क्योंकि सेम चीज़ हमें सुत्त में भी दी है परंतु वह उतनी एक्सप्लेन करके नहीं दी गई है. अभिधम्मा जब हम लोग स्टडी करते हैं, मैंने एक बार एक स्टूडेंट थे MBBS के, आई आस्क्ड हिम कि MBBS में हाउ मेनी टाइप्स ऑफ कॉन्शियसनेस आर यू स्टडिंग. सो ही सेड कि MBBS में हमें 7 प्रकार के 7 टाइप्स ऑफ कॉन्शियसनेस हमें पढ़ाया जाता है. बट इन अभिधम्मा Buddha has given us 121 types of consciousness. So you see कि अभिधम्मा में जो भगवान ने साइंस दिया है, बुद्ध ने जो साइंस दिया है हमारे माइंड और मैटर का, मेंटल प्रॉपर्टीज़ का, मटेरियल प्रॉपर्टीज़ का, मेंटल फैक्टर्स का जो ज्ञान दिया है, अभिधम्मा जो MBBS जो आजकल आधुनिक साइंस अगर हम कहें तो वो उसका एक पार्ट है. अभी हम कहते हैं कि मेडिकल बहुत तरक्की कर रहा है, बहुत सारी बीमारियों को खोज निकाला है. इवन आज हम देखते हैं कि जितनी भीड़ हमें डॉक्टर्स के पास मिलती है जो हमें बुखार की, सर्दी की दवाई देते हैं, उतने उससे भी ज़्यादा भीड़ आज हमें साइकेट्रिस्ट के पास मिलती है. क्योंकि आज जो जनरेशन है, स्पेशली द यंग जनरेशन एंड द वेमेन, उनके पास में मेंटल हेल्थ से बढ़कर कुछ है नहीं. मैं देखती हूँ कि पहले के लोगों को यदि हम देखें, अभिधम्मा पढ़ने से हमें पता भी चलता है एट द टाइम ऑफ बुद्धा हाउ पीपल यूज टू थिंक, हाउ पीपल हैव दैट अंडरस्टैंडिंग टू अंडरस्टैंड द अभिधम्मा. क्योंकि बुद्ध ने जब सारिपुत्त भंते जी को वो दिया और सारिपुत्त भंते जी ने जब अपने डिसाइपल्स को दिया और डिसाइपल्स के माध्यम से अन्य लोगों तक पहुँचा, तो पीपल यूज टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट अभिधम्मा. एंड टुडे व्हेन वी आर स्टडिंग, हम लोग पढ़े लिखे अपने आप को कहते हैं, एंड वी थिंक दैट अभिधम्मा इज़ डिफ़िकल्ट टू अंडरस्टैंड। और ये कारण है कि आज भी हम देखते हैं कि हमारी अगर तीसरी चौथी पीढ़ी को देखें, जनरेशन्स को देखें हम लोग, तो किसी के पास डिप्रेशन या स्ट्रेस जैसा या मेंटल हेल्थ जैसी कोई चीज़ दूर दूर तक भी नहीं दिखती थी। बट आज अगर हम यंग जनरेशन की बात करें, सो हम देखते हैं उन्हें आप थोड़ा सा डांट दीजिए, थोड़ा सा बोल दीजिए, उन्हें तुरंत डिप्रेशन आ जाता है। कहीं नंबर कम आ गए, स्ट्रेस आ जाता है, डिप्रेशन आ जाता है। वाई? क्योंकि हम लोग ये माइंड और मैटर को समझ नहीं रहे, और फिर जब स्ट्रेस और डिप्रेशन आता है, देन वी रन टू द साइकेट्रिस्ट। वी पे अ लॉट ऑफ हैवी फीस देयर एंड वी रन टू द साइकेट्रिस्ट टू ट्रीट देम। तो अभिधम्मा जो हम स्टडी करते हैं, उसमें हम अपने माइंड के बारे में, स्वयं के बारे में, हम अपने माइंड के बारे में इतना मिनटली ऑब्जर्व करने के लिए हम स्टडी करते हैं उसको, कि हम लोगों को किसी साइकेट्रिस्ट की आवश्यकता नहीं पड़ेगी। वी डोंट नीड। वही हमारे लिए एक मेडिसिन बन जाता है। तो मैंने देखा कि मैंने जब अभिधम्मा पढ़ना शुरू किया, मैंने अपने आप को बेहतर जानना शुरू किया, और जब मैंने पढ़ाना शुरू किया और मुझे लोगों के फीडबैक भी आते हैं, तो जब फीडबैक मिलता है तो पता चलता है कि हाउ इट इज़ इम्पैक्टिंग ऑन देयर मेंटल हेल्थ, स्पेशली द वुमेन एंड दोज वुमेन हु आर ऑलरेडी वेल एजुकेटेड। तो जब आप उनको पढ़ाने के लिए जाते हैं, सिखाने के लिए जाते हैं, तो वो इस बात को समझ पाते हैं। और महिलाओं के लिए मैं क्यों बात कर रही हूँ, पुरुषों के लिए भी उतना ही ज़रूरी है अभिधम्मा, ऐसा नहीं कि पुरुषों के लिए ज़रूरी नहीं है, क्योंकि पंथ जी ने कहा थोड़ा सा सबके लिए बोल दीजिएगा जनरल, सभी के लिए है, अभिधम्मा सभी के लिए है। बट वाई आई एम फोकसिंग ऑन विमेन, क्योंकि आप देखेंगे कि जनरेशन से विमेन जो हैं, उनका जो मेंटल हेल्थ है एज़ कंपेयर टू मैन इज़ वीक। अगर हम तुलना करें तो दे आर मोर इमोशनल। महिलाएं जो हैं ज़्यादा इमोशनल होती हैं, प्रैक्टिकल कम होती हैं। अगर हम कहें मूड स्विंग्स की बात करें, हार्मोनल चेंजेस की बात करें, तो महिलाओं में बहुत ज़्यादा होते हैं एज़ कंपेयर टू मेन। और जब ये सारी चीज़ें हमारे साथ घटित होती हैं, तो हमारा जो एक व्यवहार होता है, डे टू डे लाइफ का जो हमारा व्यवहार होता है, वो बदलता जाता है। चिड़चिड़ापन आना, जल्दी इरिटेट होना, फ्रस्ट्रेट होना, गुस्सा आना, ये सारी चीज़ें बदलती जाती हैं। लेकिन जब हम अभिधम्मा स्टडी करते हैं, क्योंकि मैंने खुद अपने ऊपर ऑब्जर्व किया है इसको, कि जब हम अभिधम्मा स्टडी करते हैं तो हम समझने लगते हैं कि ये कहाँ कुशल है, कहाँ अकुशल है। यानी कि हम लोग एक एक माइंड को ऑब्जर्व, एक एक कॉन्शियसनेस को ऑब्जर्व करने लगते हैं। तो हमारी ये जो फ्रस्ट्रेशन, इरिटेशन, ये जो महिलाओं में जो एक कारण होती है बहुत सारा, कि घर में महिलाओं जो है, हम विजडम की बात करते हैं, जैसे अभी भंते जी ने कहा अभिधम्मा इज़ मोर अबाउट विजडम, तो वो महिलाओं में हमेशा कम आंकी जाती है कि महिलाओं में विजडम कम होती है। और कारण यही है कि वो अपने आप को ऑब्जर्व नहीं कर पाते। लेकिन जब हम अभिधम्मा स्टडी करते हैं तो वो हेल्प करता है महिलाओं को अपने आप को मिनटली ऑब्जर्व करने में, अपने माइंड को ऑब्जर्व करने में, कब उन्हें किस तरीके से रिएक्ट करना है उसको ऑब्जर्व करने में, और जिससे बहुत सारी समस्याएं ख़त्म होती है। बिकॉज वी नो कि 50% ऑफ इंडियन पॉपुलेशन इज़ ऑफ विमेन, और अगर 50% ही समझती रहेगी, प्रैक्टिकल होती रहेगी, और 50% इमोशनली वीक होती रहेगी, मेंटली वीक होती रहेगी, तो इम्बैलेंस हो जाएगा, सारा इम्बैलेंस हो जाएगा। तो जैसे ही इम्बैलेंस होता है तो हमें पता है कि स्थिति बहुत बिगड़ जाती है। तो अभिधम्मा जब हम स्टडी करते हैं तो सबसे पहला तो यंग जनरेशन के लिए भी और विमेन के लिए भी, जो कि मेंटली बहुत वीक होते जा रहे हैं। विमेन पहले से ही इमोशनली, मेंटली वीक रही हैं कहीं ना कहीं। स्ट्रॉन्ग अगर हम कहें तो पेशेंस उनका बहुत ज़्यादा रहा है, लेकिन आज भी वो अपने इमोशंस को कंट्रोल अंदर अंदर अगर करती है तो वो सप्रेस करती है, उसे नष्ट नहीं कर पाती है। और ऐसे ही यंग जनरेशन की बात करें तो यंग जनरेशन के लिए सबसे इम्पॉर्टेंट जो बन के रह गया है वो क्या है? मेंटल हेल्थ है। आज हमारे पास एजुकेशन है, हमारे पास में अच्छा लाइफस्टाइल जो हम लोग ले रहे हैं, हमारे पास अच्छा सब कुछ, जो भौतिक अगर हम कहें तो सब कुछ है, लेकिन अगर मेंटल हेल्थ की बात करें तो वो बिल्कुल भी नहीं है। इवन एक छोटा सा उदाहरण अगर हम लें कि हमारे छोटा सा व्हाट्सएप पर एक मैसेज आने से या फिर हमारा एक स्टेटस डालने से भी हम देखते हैं कि कितनी देर तक हम किसी चीज़ को विचलित हो जाते हैं, सोच करके एंग्जाइटी हो जाती है, गुस्सा आने लगता है। लेकिन ये सारे जो छोटे छोटे हमारे जो इमोशंस है, जो छोटे छोटे हमारे मेंटली इम्बैलेंस है, इसे हम कंट्रोल कर सकते हैं व्हेन वी हैव अ डीपर नॉलेज अबाउट अभिधम्मा। सम पीपल बिलीव कि ये सब तो हम सुत्त पिटक से भी कर सकते हैं। हम लोग सुत्त पढ़ते हैं, डीपली पढ़ते हैं, और ये सारी चीज़ें हम लोग समझ पाते हैं, बेहतर समझ पाते हैं और हम कंट्रोल कर पाते हैं। लेकिन इसका जो दृष्टिकोण है वो हमें समझना होगा. When we study the sutta only, we study about an individual. The Buddha gave a discourse to an individual which applies on that only individual. It is not necessary that it will apply in the same manner to you also. Let me give you an example. भगवान बुद्ध के समय में हमने अंगुलीमाल के बारे में सभी ने पढ़ा है, सभी जानते हैं कि एक डाकू था. अंगुलीमाल को जिसने इतनी सारी हत्याएं की, भगवान ने एक देशना दी और वो टोटली कन्वर्ट हो गया, टोटली. उन्होंने चीवर धारण किया, भिक्षु बने और अरहंत भी हुए और तुरंत सारे पाप कर्मों को छोड़ दिया. बट इफ वी टॉक अबाउट टुडे in the 21st century, because we are talking about the significance of Abhidhamma in 21st century. So if we talk about today, अगर एक छोटा सा चोर, अंगुलीमाल जैसा डाकू तो छोड़ दीजिए, एक छोटा सा चोर भी आपके घर में आ जाए और आप उसको देशना दें, तो क्या आप उसे कन्वर्ट कर पाएंगे? डू यू बिलीव सो? नहीं कर पाएंगे ना. क्यों? क्योंकि वो जो देशना भगवान बुद्ध ने अंगुलीमाल को दी, इट अप्लाइज ऑन हिम ओनली. एंड हाउ डू वी नो दैट? हम लोगों को पता कैसे चलेगा कि वो उसी पर अप्लाई होती है, दूसरे चोर पर अप्लाई नहीं होगी? बिकॉज वी हैव टू स्टडी अबाउट द माइंड, वी हैव टू स्टडी अबाउट द कॉन्शियसनेस, कि अंगुलीमाल की जो कॉन्शियसनेस थी, अंगुलीमाल की जो माइंड थी, वो कहाँ तक डेवलप हो पाया था और इसकी वजह से सिर्फ एक देशना भर से वो परिवर्तित हो गया. वहीं अगर हम बात करें तो आनंद, हु वॉज द पर्सनल अटेंडेंट ऑफ बुद्धा, और उन्होंने सारी देशनाएं भगवान की सुनी थी, कोई भी ऐसी देशना नहीं थी. बिकॉज व्हेन बुद्धा मेड हिम हिज पर्सनल अटेंडेंट, एट दैट टाइम ऑल्सो ही हैड सम टर्म्स एंड कंडीशंस. तो उन्होंने एक कंडीशन में ये भी रखा था कि आप जहाँ पर भी जाएंगे, यदि मैं वहाँ नहीं हूँ तो जो भी आप देशना देंगे वो मुझे आकर आप बताएंगे. तो आनंद भंते ने भगवान बुद्ध की सभी देशनाओं को सुना था, कोई ऐसी देशना नहीं थी जो उन्होंने नहीं सुना. और हम जानते भी हैं, इन द फर्स्ट बुद्धिस्ट काउंसिल इन राजगीर, सो आई एम गेटिंग द टाइम इंटीमेशन, सो इन द आई विल फिनिश इन 2 minutes. इन द फर्स्ट बुद्धिस्ट काउंसिल ऑफ राजगीर हम जानते हैं कि धम्म जो था वो आनंद के द्वारा ही रिसाइट किया गया था. तो आनंद ने एक भी सुत्त मिस नहीं किया था भगवान का, बट स्टिल ही डिड नॉट बिकम एन अरहंत व्हाइल बुद्धा वॉज देयर. व्हाई? We have to understand the theory behind that. We have to understand how the consciousness develop and how we can change the people. It doesn't mean कि जो भगवान की देशना अंगुलीमाल पर अप्लाई हुई या किसी अन्य भिक्षु पर या किसी भिक्षुनी पर या उपासक या उपासिका पर लागू हुई जिसकी वजह से वो अरहंत बने, तो हम भी उसे वैसे का वैसे ही सीखकर हम भी उसे वैसे अप्लाई कर सकते हैं. नहीं, आपका चित्त कहाँ तक डेवलप हुआ है, हाउ मेनी टाइप्स ऑफ कॉन्शियसनेस यू हैव मोर अनहोलसम कॉन्शियसनेस और होलसम कॉन्शियसनेस वर्किंग इन यू, you do not know. And you will not know until or unless you study Abhidhamma. So Abhidhamma is very important, and today we are celebrating the International Abhidhamma Day here. I have much to speak, but time doesn't stop, as Ravina Pant has said, so time doesn't stop for anyone. So I will stop my word if time doesn't stop, and maybe in future I will share more with you. I have many videos on YouTube also on Abhidhamma, if you would like to learn Abhidhamma in Hindi and in English as well. I have videos in Hindi and in English as well. You can find by my name on YouTube in Hindi and in English as well. And you can start studying Abhidhamma. Some people have made Abhidhamma so complicated and you think that it is difficult to learn, but we have made it very simple how to apply Abhidhamma in daily life. So you must study how to apply Abhidhamma in daily life to become more wise, more emotionally strong, more mentally strong, and more understanding for the Sutta Pitaka. I will stop my word here. Bhavatu Sabba Mangalam.
Thank you, Venerable, for your excellent deliberation. You gave a wonderful explanation of Abhidhamma and its application. You know, it has to be, the teaching of the Buddha is ehipassiko. One has to come and practice it. So, and you have motivated us. Maybe a lot of people would join your channel, and we look forward for more such lectures from your side on Abhidhamma and its practice. Friends, time doesn't stop for anyone, and it's almost 2, and we have to wind up the whole thing in 10-15 minutes. But we have another brilliant scholar, Mr. K. Mahadevaiah, who's a Abhidhamma teacher in Mahabodhi Society, Bangalore, and he has come all the way from there. He has been motivated by Anand Bhanteji and Bada Bhanteji, and he has translated many books, Pali books, into Kannada. And here today he'll be talking on Abhidhamma, wisdom, a perception, and cognition towards peace. My request. Thank you.
Namo Buddhaya. First of all, I would like to give my heartfelt thanks to Government of India, Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, for providing such a beautiful, wonderful topic on this day. Along with that, I thank IBC, which is doing wonderful seminars on Dhamma topics. Today, the topic is given Abhidhamma, in significance of Abhidhamma in 21st century. Why 21st century? Any century you take, the previous century, present century, future century, any century you take, Abhidhamma is a must. It is a required. It is because, see, we have a Abhidhamma Research Center in Mahabodhi Society, Bangalore. We will be doing a lot of research work there. A lot of scientific research also we have done. Based on that, we have written many books also and given some seminars also. So, what I understood by studying Abhidhamma is, see, we are all using the mind. We have a mind. We have number of philosophers. We have a scientist. We have a medical scientist, neurologist. But nobody has given clear, conclusive definitions for a mind. But Buddha is given. What is mind? Where it is? Why it is? What is the strength of it? What is the weakness of it? Everything is explained in Abhidhamma. That is what we have to understand in Abhidhamma. If you catch hold of the mind, we can do anything, whatever we want in our life. So here, my topic is Abhidhamma wisdom in perception and cognizance towards peace. See, so many terms are coming. Abhidhamma is coming, wisdom is coming, perception is coming, cognition is coming, peace is coming. Everything is related to mind only. Look at this. The present day, say we have so many scenario here. Okay? There is a war going on. There is corruption, exploitation. There is suicide. There is a poverty. What is the relation with this with Abhidhamma? That's what we have to understand. See, ultimately, you can see the central picture. Whatever the thing they are doing around, ultimately they have to go silently in the tomb. It is because we are not understanding our mind properly. How our mind is behaving. What is happening in our mind. We are not at all understanding. That is the main problem. See, Buddha says, next slide, please. See, we have 5 senses, right? So we are going to pursue 5 subjects from the environment. What are those 5 subjects? Vanna, Gandha, Rasa, Saddha, Pattaba. This is 2600 years back Buddha told. But today science is studying that. So these Aramanas, Saddharamana, Vannaramana, Rasaramana, Gandharamana, Pattabaramana. These energies enter into our body through our sense organs. The moment it enters into the sense organ, the brain cannot understand this energy, outside energy we are inputting to our body. But something essential is there. please, next slide. So before going to that, I want to tell you something about the chitta. What is chitta? It is very, very important. Without understanding the chitta, you cannot understand the mind. As I have studied, chitta is a vibrational potential force flowing through our body, in our brain, in our nerve system. And along with chitta, we have another energy called chetasika. It is a flowing energy. If chitta is a forcing energy, chetasika is a flowing energy. And Buddha says, this energy has got a vibration, so it is rising, stays for short term, and decay. And this moment is called one chitta kana. One chitta kana. You can see the ECG signals here. You can see the brain. You have so many vibrations around our brain. Different area vibrates different frequency, different chittas. See, this is the next stage. Even the nervous system also, you can understand how the chitta, chetasika is flowing here. So now, please go to next. So here is the thing I wanted to tell you. See, when we receiving energy from the outside, that energy which is taken from the sense organ cannot be understood by the brain. So for that, for every organ, there is a transducer or converter which converts outside energy into brain understandable energy. And those transducer is called by Buddha as pasada. Pasada. Chakku pasada, gana pasada, saddha pasada, jiva pasada, pattaba pasada. All our 5 senses have the converters. So it converts the inputted outside energy and transfer to the brain. So after conversion, it has become vijnana. It has become vijnana. Everything is a chitta signal. Everything is a chitta process. So now the brain is going to process the informations with the help of chitta and another chitta called bhavanga chitta. Okay, please go to next. See, I told you, Abhidhamma, wisdom in perception and cognition. Now I come to the point. In perception, what is perceptions actually? We are going to recognize the things, process the information which is coming to our body in 2 levels, in sensory level and mental level. When you are perceiving in sensory level, this is called perception or sanya vijanana in Pali. Sanya or vijanana. This is initial sensory perceptions. But this is going to do some problem for us. What is that? Buddha says we are going to have vipallasa. 3 vipallasas is going to attack our perceptions. What is that? Sanya vipallasa, chitta vipallasa, ditti vipallasa. If Sanna Vipallasa is there, you can see these distortions. See, for person standing here, it is appearing 6. Person standing there appearing 9. And if those 2 become different religion, definitely there are going to be a war. This is a Vipallasa which is developing in our mind. Similarly, there is an image. So it appears to be a rabbit, also the mouth of a duck. This is Sanna Vipallasa I am talking about. So there you can find a picture of old woman or a young woman. Both are visible. So our Vipallasa, Sanya, is going to create these illusions in our mind. Similarly, the rainbow you take. Similarly, the mirage you take. Similarly, the video you take. We have a Sanya Vipallasa. Because of that, we are able to see the movies, the persistence of visions. This is the first level of perceptions at organ. Next comes to the thought process. Next slide, please. This is the thought process. So Buddha says, whatever we take information from outside world, from sensory organs, it is converted into the brain understandable signal through pasadas, then passed on to brain. brain, different areas are going to process different informations. So everything is going to be happening by thinking process, thought process. We cannot do anything without thought. So every thought consists of 17 thought moments, Buddha says. 17 chitta kanas are 17 thought moments. For one identification of object, either smell or vision or taste or touch, whatever it is, 17 thought moments are required. So Buddha says, for a flip of a finger, blink of an eye, such more than 60,000 thought processes are going in your mind. Then how the mind can going to be peace? So it has to be purified. This has to be purified. How it has to be purified? I told you, you have to understand the vipallasa, sanya vipallasa, then chitta vipallasa. Chitta vipallasa here, we are going to, when receive the information, we have to interpret it, investigate it wrongly, interpret it wrongly, understand wrongly, then the mental state changes. The understanding goes wrong. Then definitely there is going to be a problem. Our mind is always subjected to the cause and conditions. That's what Buddha said, pachaya. Paticca samupada, you can understand. Always subjected to the pachaya, cause and conditions. Suppose if I talk angrily to somebody else, immediately his mind conditions. If you read something from the newspaper which is not interested for you, your mind conditions. If somebody scolds you, your mind conditions. Your ego is triggered. Every moment our mind is going to be changing because we are conditioning. It is subjected to conditions. So how to avoid that? Through meditations. I don't want to say meditation, through vipassana bhavana. It is because meditation is a present word. So the definition of meditation says, thinking, visualizing repetitively an image or information continuously in your mind is meditation. Right? But Buddha never talked about it. Buddha said it's bhavana. Samatha bhavana, vipassana bhavana. What is the meaning of bhavana? Development of the mind. What are you going to develop? You are going to develop ekaggata, concentration, and awarenesses. There are basics, 5 levels of awarenesses are there that we have to develop. We have to develop watchfulness, we have to develop awareness, we have to develop alertness. This is what we do in Vipassana Bhavana or in Samatha Bhavana. So, if you do meditation, you will achieve concentration. From the concentration, you can achieve your personal goal, or you can gain iddhi, or you can go to jhana level or enlightenment path. So our thought is very, very important. We should always think. Just close your eyes and just watch your mind. What is happening? One or the other thought is going on in your mind. Just identify it, it will stop. If you force it, it increases. That is the nature of the mind. If you try to block it, it increases. So no question of blocking here. Just watching with awareness, full awareness. That is called sati. So if you implement watchfulness, awareness, alertness at a given time, in a present moment, that is called mindfulness or sati. So that is achieved in meditations. So Samatha Bhavana, Vipassana Bhavana, along with the practice of Abhidhamma, definitely we are going to develop our mind. Suppose you see the war is going between the two countries. What is happening? Because the one country leader mind is conditioned negatively. Another country leader mind is also conditioned negatively. There is an ego fighting between these two leaders. The ego fight between two leaders is going to kill number of innocent peoples. So we have to purify our mind. Yes. So please practice meditation, study the Abhidhamma. Definitely you will understand. And I hope this conference is going to trigger your mind to go forward to understand Abhidhamma very deeply. I wish you all Bhavatu Sabha Mangalam.
Thank you very much for your brilliant talk with PPT, and it made us understand perception, cognition towards peace. Friends, in this session we had 4 papers, and all the papers were good, and the last 2 papers were more on the application part, which motivates us towards Dhamma and more so towards Abhidhamma. Time is short, we have to start the second session also, but in case you have any question, maybe 1 or 2 questions we can take. Otherwise, we'll close the session so that the second session on relevance of Pali language and its role in contemporary time, we'll be doing this session, and a lot of things Prime Minister has told us, and the scholars have to work hard to bring back Pali at the top. So, we're very much looking forward for the second session. But if you have any question, we can take up 1 or 2 questions. So, thank you very much for patient hearing, and we close this session, and maybe the second session will start in about 5 minutes, so you can take rest for 5 minutes or go to the washroom, etc. 5 minutes, we'll start the second session. And second session will be chaired by Venerable Dhamma Jyoti from Navanalanda Mahavihar. So,
thank you,
Momento.
panelists. Before we move on to the next session, we would like to felicitate the speakers of the first session and our Dhamma teacher of today, Venerable Panya Rakita, who was chairman of the Mahabodhi Maitri Mandamal Society from Arunachal Pradesh. I request Secretary General of International Buddhist Confederation to please come on stage and felicitate our Dhamma teacher today. Thank you, Venerable Panya Rakita. You were extremely patient in addressing the gathering today. I now request Ms. Amita Prasad Sarbai, Joint Secretary of Buddhist in Tibet Institutions, Ministry of Culture, Government of India, to please come on stage and felicitate our panelists of Session 1. First, our moderator, Dr. Ravindra Pant, Director IBC. Next, we have Most Venerable Dr. Bhadant Rahul Bodhi Mahathero, President of Bhikkhu Sangha from Mumbai. Third speaker, Bhikkhuni Sakya Dhammadina, Abhidhamma teacher. And last but not the least, Mr. K. Mahadeva from Bangalore. Thank you, ma'am, and thank you, panelists. Moving on to the second session of today, the last technical session in celebrating the International Abhidhamma Diwas. Our second session is on relevance of Pali language and its role in contemporary times. The moderator of this session is Venerable Dr. Dhamma Jyoti, Associate Professor of Navanalanda Mahavira from Bihar. The speakers are Professor Mahesh Ashok Devkar from Pune University, Dr. Anirban Das from National Manuscript Mission of IGNCA, New Delhi. A third speaker is Professor Siddharth Singh from Banarasi Hindu University. And our last speaker is Dr. Pranshul Samadarshi from Nalanda University, Bihar. Please welcome our panelists of the second technical session. Requesting panelists of session 2 to please come on the dais.
Evaṁ buddhaṁ sarantānaṁ dhammam sanghaṁ ca bhikkhavo bhayaṁ vācam vitattam vā lomahanso nahissati. Reverend Bhikkhu Sangha, all the erudite scholars on the dais, and distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen. Now this is our second session of the seminar, the discussion. In the morning we had Prime Minister of our country, Narendra Modi, and he has spoke a lot about the significance of the day. Especially he was emphasizing on the Pali, that they have declared Pali is one of the literary language of our country. Today we are, in a way, celebrating this. And we can say we are very happy day. Both the Abhidhamma Day, Pali Declaration Day, Narendra Modi, Prime Minister himself declared. Of course, it has been already, it was already declared, but today, among all the devotees of Buddhist and monks, Sangha. So, very special day, we can say. So on this occasion, we have now the first session we discussed about the Dhamma and Abhidhamma. Now in this second session, we are discussing all about Pali, because it's a Pali day. We are very proud of, very happy, especially our Pali community, especially teachers of universities. We have been trying and struggling to have a Pali in one of the recognized language of our country. We are successful, and today we are now speaking 4 erudite scholars from different universities. They will focus their discourse on Pali only. So I found the first Professor Mahesh Divakar, Head of Department of Pali and Buddhist Study, Savitribai Phule, Pune University. If we talk about the biodata, it is almost a 2-page. How the time will go and that time will consume by this. But anyhow, I will read out Sir's great contributions. So Sir himself agreed to drop it. But yes, actually, the great scholars, no need to, advertise. They are already national recognized scholars and plus international scholars. So I kindly request our professor to speak on his topic, the relevance of Pali language and role of contemporary time.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Honorable chairperson of this session, Honorable Bhikkhu Sangha, the Director General, the General Secretary and the Director of IBC, and all the officials of IBC, as well as all the seekers of Buddha Dhamma who have gathered here today for this conference, especially to celebrate the Abhidhamma Day, Abhidhamma Diwas. And as we have heard, we are also celebrating today the classical status given to Pali. I'm here to share some of my thoughts with you on today's theme. Now, the question whether Pali is relevant or not, I think that is, in a way, not a point of debate. We all, at least those who are here, we all strongly believe and we have our conviction that Pali is relevant, right? And we have spoken about it. In the morning, we have heard our speakers, the Honorable Prime Minister, also talking about the importance of Pali, not only in the Indian context, but also at the international level. And we all agree to that. I'll just take you a bit to the history of Pali language. We know that the language was used to preserve and disseminate the teachings of the Buddha, the early discourses of the Buddha. And for us, as students of Pali, it is very important because that's the only language now which preserves the Tipitaka in its entirety. I mean, we do have, of course, Tipitaka in what we call as Buddhist Sanskrit, and also different versions of Prakrit, like Gandhari Prakrit and the Prakrit of the Sammitiyas, the Saindavi Prakrit. But unfortunately, much of it is lost, and we do not have the complete Tipitaka with us. It's only Pali which preserves the complete Tipitaka with all the three baskets, Sutta, Vinaya, and Abhidhamma with us. Apart from that, I mean, Pali somehow continued to live, to rejuvenate itself, to revitalize itself. I mean, it had that kind of capacity. Other traditions of Buddhism with, other languages, unfortunately did not have that good fortune, we can say. So initially, Pali, of course, had its role as a language to disseminate, preserve and disseminate the Buddha Vachanas, and this is how we call it Pali. Then what we see is that when Tipitaka was taken to Sri Lanka and elsewhere, it was basically studied in the regional languages. So we know that even though Pali Tipitaka was taken to Sri Lanka, but it was primarily studied with the help of Sinhala Attakathas. And then it is only in the 3rd or 4th century in the Common Era when the Mahavihara tradition in Sri Lanka felt it necessary to revive Pali as a language of Buddhism. And this is how we see that the great chronicles were written, like Deepavansa. That was the beginning of the second stage of Pali. And then the whole Mahavihara project of translating the Sinhala Attakathas back to Pali, the language of the mainland. Now, here we see that after a gap of almost 600 years after the Emperor Ashoka, when Pali was, in a way, went to a dormant state, it is a Mahaviharan tradition in Sri Lanka which felt it necessary to revive this language. So they recognize the relevance of this language, and through Pali, they kind of could stage a revival of the Theravada tradition, what we call Theravada in the modern times. So here Pali played a role of exegetical language, the language which comments on the Tipitaka, the language which bears the history of Buddhism and history of the island of Sri Lanka, as well as as Indian history. So this second phase, Pali played that particular role, and this is also the time when we had the arising of Pali grammars. So Pali became more systematic, more, was studied in a more systematic manner. It was presented in a more systematic manner. It was no more simply a spontaneous language. Then comes the period after 10th century, when again, the Buddhist tradition felt it necessary to go back to this language, to revive it one more time, and now to make it play a larger role. By the way, we should remember that even though Pali, of course, it is known as Magadhi because the Buddha basically taught in the region of Magadha, and therefore we call it Magadhi. But if you look at the history of this language, though it was in a way born in Magadha, but it developed in the central part in the Avanti region, and its further development took place in southern India, in the Chola heartland, in Tamil Nadu and the Kaveri basin. And from there, in its very, you can say, matured state, it traveled outside India and went to neighboring countries like Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, and Cambodia. Now, after 10th century, Pali played a more global role. And it is in this phase that in Sri Lanka, they felt that now Pali should be used not just for preservation of Buddha Vachanas, not just for exegetical purposes, but even for writing scientific treatises. And this is where we see an emergence of new Pali grammatical schools, and many texts on scientific topics such as poetics, then lexicography, metrics, and medicine were now composed in Pali, along with the texts on didactics and so on. So Pali now started playing a larger role, a role of a language of scientific literature even. And it also kind of started composing, people started composing kavyas into Pali, which was not the case before. Started writing Buddha Charitas like Jina Charita and so on. And even in the later phases, many experiments were done with this language. With this brief history now, we'll have to kind of, we are in the phase where Pali is going to have its fourth revival at a very different stage. In modern times, we have already seen that this language has created lots of interest in India and in the Buddhist world as well as in the West. Because of Buddhist philosophy, the teachings of the Buddha, its importance as an important philosophy for personal development. We have already heard Abhidhamma is highlighting the psychological aspect of this knowledge. But at the same time, in 1956, we have seen that Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar has also kind of took inspiration from this literature for the social revival of Indian society. And I think that was another implication or relevance of this language. And he tried to unearth the social message of the Buddha, which was otherwise forgotten in a very scholastic or you can say meditation-centric interpretation or understanding of the literature. Now, in the modern times, when we look forward, I think time has come that we need to explore this literature with a wider, with a wider application. We should see how this literature and the knowledge stored therein can be used for solving many of the problems which we are facing, the ecological problem, political problems, social problems. So I think now we need to look at Pali and Pali literature as a way of thinking, as a way of addressing problems. So we should not simply study Pali now as its face value, but we should also try to now be more creative as students and scholars of Pali to get inspiration from it, to learn ways of dealing with modern situations. And I think there where we see a greater role of Pali. We have already heard in the morning that how Pali can be addressed, can be used. I mean, Pali literature can be used for addressing psychological issues, mental health issues. But at the same time, I mean, we have to identify the interdisciplinary role of Buddhist literature, and we have to see that it can really give us a paradigm that can help us to engage with many modern subjects with a different perspective. We can engage with economics, we can engage with political science, and even modern science with the perspective from the Pali literature. And I think this is where our creativity lies now, henceforth. And for that, of course, it is very much necessary to actually study Pali in depth. Because what is happening is, like, we are mostly relying on translations and trying to, draw our conclusions based on the secondary literature. But now I think what is also most necessary is to create, sound scholarship in Pali language, which can actually deal with this vast storehouse of knowledge in a more efficient manner. As it is said in the opening stanza of the Kachayana grammar, that Seyam jinerita nayena buddha labanti tanchapi tassa vachanatha subodhanena. So in order to understand or to get the Shreya, the highest goal of human life, we need to understand the path shown by the Buddha. And in order to show that, to know that path shown by the Buddha, we need to understand properly what is said by the Buddha. So we need to understand the language first. So now the language has got the classical status, but it is now our greatest responsibility to put more efforts in mastering this language, to create scholars and who can actually deal with this language, can translate it with most efficiency. So that's the most important thing to do. So I think IBC and all of the colleagues who are here will really take that up very seriously, and all of us together can really work hard for the revival of the Pali, and make it ready to serve the fourth revolution, I would say, in terms of Buddhism. So thank you very much for providing me this opportunity. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Actually, yes, Pali, now it is our responsibility for revive Pali in our own country. And the foreign countries, particularly Sri Lanka and Burma, they have taken a long journey to revive the Pali and preserve the Pali. Particularly Sri Lankan Ceylonese monk were the most highly dedicated for preserve the Pali. We know in Southeast Asia also, during the 1428, the 25 monks from Chiang Mai and 8 monks from Cambodia, 6 monks from Burma were brought back to Ceylon, and they were trained for 2 years. After they were sent back to again Southeast Asia, and they established in Chiang Mai Lanka Vangsa tradition. And later they revived Pali in Southeast Asia. Sri Lankan monks are highly dedicated to preserve and promote Pali. We are fortunate enough now in our country, the Prime Minister has accepted it's a national literary language, and now it is our duty to preserve and promote. Thank you so much, sir. Now our next speaker Yes, Dr. Arvind Das, Director of National Museum, Mission in IGNCA, New Delhi. I may not read your biodata since there is a lack of time. You can continue your topic, sir. Thank you.
नमो तस्स भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा संबुद्धस्स. Respected chairman of this session, Venerable Bhikkhu Sangha, and all the eminent scholars. Dear students, friends, so the topic as given to me by IBC, the origin, development and dissemination of Pali as Dhamma Setu. I extend my sincere gratitude to the whole team of the IBC, especially the DG Sahab, Secretary Sahab, all the members, professors, to giving me the opportunity to be here, talk about the classical language, Pali, just it is declared. So, the next slide. If we look at the Buddha's teaching across languages and region, look at the slide. Geographically, Gautam Buddha taught in Magadha, one of the 16 Janapada. But the four most important places, including the birthplace, Lumbini, and the enlightenment Bodha Gaya, and the Saranath, the first ceremony, and the Kushinagar, the Mahaparinirvana. In his life, we are all outside of it. It is likely that he taught in several closely related dialects of Middle Indo-Aryan, which had a highly degree of mutual intelligibility. Next. Yes. So, we have a story in Chullabaga that two Brahmins came to Buddha and they say, Bhikkhu, Bante Bhikkhu, Nana Nama, Nana Gotta, Nana Jacha, Nana Kola Pavajjita. Te Sakaya Nirutya Buddha Vachanam Dusenti. They are polluting the Buddha Vachana, Dusenti. So, what was the answer? The Buddha to these two monks. It is clearly rendered from the passage of Chullabaga 5.33 that the Buddha authorized the monks to learn his words, each in his own dialect. Definitely, it is a very controversial statement. What was the own dialect? It means there are many dialects which is not included in the text. We cannot find all the dialects. Some of the dialects we know, Magadhi, Ardhamagadi, Paisachi, Sauraseni. But here the emphasis has been shifted to the monks, to the own dialect or language, Sakaya Nirutti, instead of Buddha's own language. Being a linguistic master, he used the language of masses to propagate the Dhamma. Next. So Buddhist religious texts have been handed down to us in four Indic languages that we know: Pali, Prakrit, Buddhist hybrid Sanskrit, that is BHS, and Paninian Sanskrit. Next. Pali, among all these four languages, Indic languages, Pali emerged as the popular medium in preserving and conveying the Buddha's ethical, philosophical, and spiritual teachings, closely linked to the vernacular of Prakrit of northern India, although its precise origin are debated. So you can see there is the Pali canon in Burmese script. So what is the global influence of Pali? Next slide. So origin, Pali emerged as the key language of Buddhism, gaining prominence through Emperor Ashoka's promotion of the Buddha Dhamma in the 3rd century BCE throughout his edicts. You can see all the edicts. And the middle picture about the Sanghamitra on the boat says going to propagate the Buddha Dhamma. And some inscriptions. Ashoka's mission. As a devoted person, Ashoka sent missionaries, including son Mahinda and Dr. Sanghamitra to spread Buddhism, establishing Pali as the liturgical language in Sri Lanka. Next. You can see the picture of this Sinhali manuscript. The king Mahinda introduced the Buddha's teaching, leading to Pali's adoption as literal language, and Tripitaka recorded in the Pali for preservation. Next. So, if you look at the picture, how Buddhism has spread throughout the Asia, we can see, walk through the Southeast Asia. From Sri Lanka, Pali spread to most of the Southeast Asian countries like Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, and Cambodia, and becoming the integral to the Theravada and the oldest surviving form of Buddhism, and influencing religious practices, socio-cultural tradition across the region. That you can see we have a great treasure of tradition, of manuscript tradition is there. So the last point, that is the stages of Dhamma Setu. Next. The stages of Dhamma Setu, Buddha's dissemination of Dhamma. So the Buddha and his disciples actively traveled, sending monks to spread the teachings, reflected in various texts. Charathavikhave, Charikam, Bahujana Hitaya, Bahujana Sukhaya, Lokanukampaya, Athaya, Hitaya, Sukhaya, Devam Manusanam. So monks, they have journeying in various places to teach the Buddha Dhamma. Next. The second stage, Dhamma Setu, is the Asokan dissemination of Dhamma. The teachings flourished during the Asokan reign, creating a bridge of wisdom across the culture and making the Dhamma accessible to all, enduring its impact through historical inscriptions. Next. So you can see the stages 3, that is the textual dissemination of the Dhamma. If you look at the picture, this is a painting in Kalaniya Raja Mahavihar in Sri Lanka. After writing the Pali commentaries, Venerable Buddhagasa offered to the Mahathera. So Pali continued an important factor in the transmission and preservation of Dhamma as a numerous scripts across the Southeast Asia region. We have Burmese, we have Sinhali, we have Khmer, we have Thai, we have Lana, which are used to produce numerous textual heritage. There are still so many manuscripts are unpublished, so there is an opportunity to work in this direction. Next. This is the last stages of Dhamma Setu, recognition of Pali as the classical language. Look, the bridge has already broken bridge. I'm just showing to show that the honor and revitalization honors its philosophical and the spiritual legacy. We are revitalizing the study and preserving literary treasure for future generation. Cultural acknowledgement highlights the Indian rich linguistic and cultural history, affirming Pali's integral role in Buddhism, a significant spiritual contribution to the humanity and potential for cultural reawakening under the Bharat's leadership, fulfilling the mission of Ek Bharat, Shrestha Bharat. Interdisciplinary tool serves as a valuable tool for addressing contemporary issues by engaging with the various disciplines such as science, medicine, politics, insights that can inform modern practices and policies. Opportunities opens a new avenue for research, scholarship, particularly concerning the manuscript heritage across the Southeast Asia, documented in various scripts such as Khmer, Sinhali, Burmese, Lao, Thai, Lana. Scholastic institutions of manuscript heritage and like NMM should form a fundamental pillar for new Dhamma Setu 4. That is the Pali as the classical language that can be connect the glorious past to the present and the future seamlessly. So I would like to end my talk with the word that Jayatu Bharate Buddhasa Pali.
Thank you, sir. You have met a very attractive topic, Dhamma Setu. And you have very comprehensively explained with picture and in detail, taking various sources from the. So thank you very much. So next speaker is Professor Siddharth Singh, Senior Professor of Head Department of Pali Buddhist Study, BHU, Varanasi. I kindly request sir to.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Venerable Bhikkhu Sangha, Honorable DG IBC, other distinguished members of IBC who made this possible in a very short span of time, such a wonderful event we are attending just because of the entire team of IBC. So I'm grateful to IBC for having us on board. Moderator of this session, Venerable Dhamma, my co-panelists, distinguished scholars, and students. I'm given the task of discussing the present status of Pali studies in India and its future prospects. So first of all, as a student of Pali and Buddhist studies, I would like to extend the gratefulness not only behalf of me, but on behalf of the entire Buddhist fraternity, as well as all the people who are engaged with ancient India, to the Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji for taking this decision to recognize Pali as a classical language of India. Actually, it has been a tragedy when I was given this task to speak on this issue, and I was going through the Pali studies in the Buddhist countries, and then I switched over to the Pali studies in Europe and United States of America. Then in a way I was feeling ashamed that Pali, India being the origin of Pali language, the land of Pali and Buddhist studies, Buddhism, it was a huge tragedy that for so many centuries, Pali was totally alien to its own community, its own nationals. And so I think this step, we should not forget to pay our homage to the great stalwarts of India, who despite all these very little, without any funding, if you see go through the books which were published during 1950s or 60s of Mahapandit Rahul Sankrityayan or Bhikshu Jagdish Kashyap or Bhadant Anand Kaushalyayan, and if you go through the foreword of those books, so you'll find that they have been collecting 1 rupee, 2 rupees from the people to get their books published in the same India which is the origin of Pali or Buddhist studies. So we should not forget those stalwarts, great savan of Pali studies like Bhikshu Jagdish Kashyap, Mahapandit Rahul Sankrityayan, Bhadant Anand Kaushalyayan, Dharmanand Kaushambi, first teacher of Pali in Kolkata University, and Bharat Singh Upadhyay, Bhikshu Dharam Rakshit, and P.V. Bapat, B.M. Barua, Narinaksh Dutt, and so many others. So on this occasion, I would like to pay my sincere homage to all those great people who kept Pali alive despite all the absurdities of our system, despite all the hindrances they faced in order to keep Pali alive. But they still did struggle, and they did not have this kind of Vigyan Bhavan to deliver their lectures, but still they kept on proliferating the knowledge of Buddhism enshrined in the Pali teachings. So with these words, as I mentioned that it has been a tragedy. So Pali studies in India, certainly it has traveled a long journey. But as I mentioned, that if you compare from the countries, Buddhist countries, as well as even the countries of Europe or USA. So I will come on the first department of Pali later in India. But before that, let me draw your attention towards the Pali studies in Europe and USA. So just imagine that the countries which are so-called Christian countries, in that the Pali studies, the Pali department was opened in University of Paris, Collège de France, in 1832. And the Eugene Burnouf wrote the book History of Indian Buddhism, our own Buddhism, in 1844. And then in 1881, Pali Text Society was established in London. And 10 years after that in Harvard, Pali was being taught, and Harvard Oriental series was getting published. And where Dharmanand Kaushambi also joined H.C. Warren to produce the books like Visuddhi Maggo under the Harvard Oriental series. And then when we talk of this conflict of the Sanskrit or Pali, and somebody drawn attention, so let me highlight that in Harvard, the scholar, the Clark's Rockwell Landman, who introduced Pali, was basically a Sanskrit scholar. And he introduced Pali in Harvard University. And then at the same time, in Oxford in 1832, the Pali studies in a minor form was started with the establishment of the Borden Chair of Sanskrit, very prestigious Borden Chair of Sanskrit, on which for a long duration, Richard Gombrich, very well-known scholar of Pali, was there. And then later, when formally in 1882, the Pali department was established in Oxford, so T.W. Rhys-Davids, who founded Pali Text Society, he was appointed as lecturer in Oxford University. So, and then University of London, 1916. And let's come to India in that context. So, Calcutta University is the first university which opened the formal department of Pali. Means I'm sharing all this and present status when I will share, so because I observe that many of you, especially the Buddhist monks, nuns, and the Buddhist community, they generally belong to the Mahayana tradition. So it would be interesting for them if they want to explore the Pali studies also in addition to their Mahayana studies. So it may be interesting, if not very entertaining, but at least it would be informative for them. So in the Calcutta University, the first department of Pali was established in 1906. And as I mentioned, that the first teacher was Dharmanand Kaushambi, very well-known Pali scholar. Later, he moved to Fergusson College, and then Pali was started in Fergusson College, Pune. And the first MA of Pali was Satish Chandra Vidyabhushan, who later joined that Calcutta University as a teacher. So, and if we talk in the terms of course, after that, you have the history of, I will not go into the details of the establishment of all the departments, but I would highlight a few names. And then now Nalanda Mahavihar, which is widely still known in Bihar as Nalanda Pali Institute, was established in 1951. And that was a kind of some breakthrough in the history of Pali studies, because Bhikshu Jagdish Kashyap was the founder and well-known Pali scholars, and he brought the scholars from the whole world to Nalanda. And I remember that when I, in 2003-04, almost 21 years ago, when I visited Japan as a Japan Foundation Fellow for 1 year, so I remember that I had, by some contact, I contacted a Japanese scholar, Professor Hojun Nagasaki, and I was not aware of his Nalanda connection. But when I visited from Osaka to Kyoto to visit him, to pay my regards to him and to get his guidance to do my further research related to Pali studies in Japan. And his first question when he received at Kyoto station, his first question was to me that how is my Nalanda? So Bhikshu Jagdish Kashyap was the person, was visionary who brought these great people to Nalanda, and then the Pali studies. So if I have to summarize the whole Pali studies in India, so there are three ways Pali studies is being conducted, administered in India nowadays. Some are the independent departments of Pali studies in India. Some are being taught, in some departments are Buddhist studies department in which Pali is being taught as a part of Buddhist studies, not as a mainstream Pali studies, but it is in addition to Buddhist Sanskrit literature and so on, it is being taught. And third kind of structure is that Pali is being taught in the departments of the Sanskrit or the school of Sanskrit. So independent departments of Pali are being held in, for example, in our university, Banaras Hindu University, Pune University, Maheshji is there. Nalanda has the Department of Pali as well as Department of Buddhist Studies. There are two separate departments. Nagpur has old history of Department of Pali and Prakrit. Maharashtra, because of the influence of, thanks to Dr. Baba Sahab Ambedkar, the Buddhism was revived, and with Buddhism, the Pali was also revived in Maharashtra. So we see a lot of the influence of the Pali studies or the Pali attraction towards Pali studies. So Aurangabad, Marathwada University, Aurangabad is also there. If we talk in the terms of Bihar, Magad University, in addition to Nalanda, has Pali. And Pali is still, I believe, I am not aware of the very recent condition, but Pali is still a subject of the competitive examination, civil services of Bihar. Perhaps it is not there. So earlier it was there, but the structure has changed. So similarly, like 2013 UPSC, Pali is removed from UPSC. So if we talk in like Sampoda and Sanskrit University is there in Varanasi, where Pali is still is a department. But if you talk in the terms of the size and the structure of the departments, so you will find that all departments of all the universities are running on very small human resources. So we cannot glorify that we have a very huge, big departments and we are able to do a lot of researches. So some departments have only one teacher, some departments have two teachers. So in that kind of situation, and some departments have died out because of the retirement of a few Pali teachers. If we talk in the terms of the Pali being a part of the Buddhist studies, so Delhi University is one department which has that place. Similarly, Gautam Buddha University, Greater Noida, Wardha, Mahatma Gandhi Antarashtriya University, Wardha, and Nalanda University, which was established very late and which is administered under the auspices of Ministry of External Affairs. And in very few departments like JNU School of Sanskrit, the Pali is also being taught as a part of the curriculum. And perhaps in Rashtriya Sanskrit Sansthan, they have the certain projects on Pali related to Pali. So I think if I have to sum up lastly, that I think that during the last 10 years, these two decisions, or better to say that during last few years, 3-4 years, two great things happened in the history of Pali. Number one, Pali is now a part of national education policy. So, and after that, I saw a kind of traction among some private universities and public universities towards Pali they have the hope or they are looking forward to start Pali as a subject, as a part of curriculum in CUET. The UG will be of 4 years, and in that there is a possibility of Pali being taught. Second thing which we are discussing today, that classical status. So as we have seen that whatever languages have been declared as a classical language, so in those kind of cases, generally a few things have happened. If we see the pattern, so generally two international awards are established to honor the scholars of that language, mostly for the international scholars who are contributing to that language abroad. So we can expect that in the same way the Center of Excellence has been established in the case of Sanskrit. So we can hope that in the future we will see some sort of Center of Excellence for Pali studies also. And UGC has established chairs in some universities of the languages which were declared classical in the past. So we can also hope that that would happen. Pali studies, as I mentioned, that it's relatively very new as compared to Buddhist countries, very new as compared to even Europe and US. So in that case, digitization project is very much needed if we want to restore, because I was discussing with Sir Mahesh Devkarji, that we do not have a unified center which has produced even the translation of Pali literature, even Tipitaka, forget about Atthakatha, once Tika literature, from even one place. 50, 60 years ago, these texts were published from very less known publishers, some gully of Varanasi, some Master Das Khiladi Lal kind of thing, like Khuddak Path of Vikshudharm Rakshit, Iti Uttak Udan. Even modern present-day students, they are not even aware that these kind of books were published somewhere 50, 60 years ago. So we need, if such kind of books could be digitized, the translations could be made easily available to the students. And some sort of, I believe that with the classical status, some sort of the entry among school books can also be visible, maybe visible for the Pali in Indian schools after it gets classical status. I believe that from the social perspective, because these are all interconnected, intertwined, if the things are being taught in the school books or in the academic level, so certainly it will have its social impact. So I believe that with the much more proliferation of the Buddha's teachings enshrined in Pali language and literature, we can hope the inculcation of human values, the ethics, and we can imagine much more just-based and equity-based society in the future. So it may have a very direct impact of Pali studies, because even if you go through the Dhammapad only, so you see the entire text is about mind and morality. It's such a strong source of the ethics, universal ethics, which doesn't talk of the conversion to Buddhism, which doesn't talk of anything which you can call as religious in the sense of modern days, the Western terminology. It only talks of the universal ethics. It only talks of the mind control. It always talks of the gender equality. It has all those humanistic values which can be called very modern and progressive from even most modern standard. Most of the sustainable development goals, 18 sustainable goals, you can find in the Pali literature very easily. And very easily you can corroborate the connection. You can find the interdependence between these different aspects. So I think with this classical status, I believe that we will have, the future generations we have much more very easy access to Buddha's teachings enshrined in Pali. And that and with that step, the proliferation, dissemination, transmission of the Pali study, the messages hidden in the Pali treasure would also be transmitted to the next generation. With these words, I am so thankful to you for your kind patience.
Thank you, sir. You paid your gratitude to all our grandmasters of Pali. Actually, and draw up all the history of Pali, start in India from beginning to up to present time. Remembering our great masters of Pali who contribute for Pali language. Today you have conveyed your gratitude on the occasion of the event where the Pali is accepted as a national literary language. There's a Pali verse called Katanyo Katavidita Dullabho Lokasmi. One who has gratitude towards what one has done for the society, for the individual. Katanyo, show gratitude. Dullabho Lokas means rare in the world. So you have done your part, duty, showing gratitude to your grandmasters of Pali. And we are very happy. And in a short time, you have shown a sort of history of Pali. Start in India, how it was emerged and developed to today. Thank you so much, sir. Now next, our speaker is Dr. Priyanshu Samarshi, Samadarshi, Assistant Professor, School of Buddhist Study, Nalanda University, Nalanda, Bihar. Not Nalanda. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I'm grateful to IBC Director General, Director, and for sharing my little experience. I come from Nalanda, so the name itself, this invokes a certain pride in us about our great ancient heritage, the past. And Nalanda was the beacon of knowledge. Sariputra, Maudgalyayan, they were from Nalanda. And when Sariputra meets Asyajit, this is there in the Vinay Pitak, when Pabajja of Sariputra and Maudgalyayan is being given, there is a beautiful verse which Asyajit recites to Sariputra. I'll begin my talk with that. Ye dhamma hetu pabhava hetum tesam tathagato ah tesam chayo nirodha evam vadi mahasamano. So with this auspicious Mangalacharan, I will begin my sharing of experience, which I'm I can see some of my friends sitting here, and I recently did my PhD from University of Delhi. I was student of Pali in my first year, and the first line which we were taught when our introductory class of Pali was given, we were taught that palati rakhati iti Pali. Palana, jaise the way mother nurtures and protects, rakhati. That is how this language has nurtured and protected Buddha Vachana. in the morning, we heard bhikkhu, they recited some verses, and they are called matika. Interestingly, this matika means matrika, which means mother. And that's the approach for this language which we had, ancient Indian heritage had. These Pali, as Professor Anirban Das made his presentation, it was a Dhamma Setu, a linguistic bridge which connected us with the entire Asia in ancient time. The early Buddhist teaching, they disseminated across the Asia, be it Sri Lanka, be it Cambodia, be it Laos. There it was officially, during early centuries, it was recognized as one of the state language. And we have, how do we know? We have archaeological evidences for them. We have multiple inscriptions. कई सारे शिलालेख मिलते हैं इन जगहों पे. By 5th century, historically speaking, we see a sort of a decline in the Pali system, and where it gets more centered in the Sri Lanka. And there, again, there is a huge rise with the approach of Buddha Ghosh, Acharya Aniruddha. Then it further, by 12th century, the group of Burmese monk, they are developing a very precise grammar for the Pali. And it's a continuous heritage, and we see that for the centuries, this language has been disseminating Buddha Vachana across the Asia. I was coming with Venerable Bhikkhu Dhammajyoti from Nalanda, and he was sharing that there was a first wave of Buddhism. After Buddha, there is Ashoka, the king Ashoka, and we see the rise of Buddhism. Then again, there is a second wave of Buddhism, which we see during Gupta time period. And we have universities like Vikramshila, continued by Harshvardhana, and continued by Pala period, where we have Vikramshila and Jagadala and many, many such prestigious universities. Then there is a decline. So that was the second wave. And I feel that at present we are in the third wave of again this rise of, the Buddha, the tradition of and the Buddhist heritage. And we see, monuments, great monuments such as Nalanda have been revived. Honorable Prime Minister inaugurated just few months back. And we see the status, language. Pali has got a status of classical language. Forgive my ignorance. I was not aware that Pali did not have a classical status. The kind of rich literature, the precise grammar, the linguistic precision it had, it is already, it's not an honor for this language, but it's honor for our country that recognizing Pali as a classical language. So Pali was already, a classical, a very precise Dhamma Setu. So with this, I think I would end my this discussion. Time is already up. So again, thank you very much. Bhavatu sabba mangalam, rakhantu sabba devat. Thank you.
Thank you, Priyanshu Samar Darshi. Sorry for not able to pronounce before. Your name is like Sri Lankan name. And you look also like Sri Lankan. So actually our four erudite scholars have expressed their paper very eruditely. And anybody want to have a question, can raise a question. Otherwise, we'll wind up this session. Any question? No question. Yeah, we will see any want to wish to ask any questions. They can raise. Yeah. No question. That means good. Not only good, the best. So, in Vinaya Pitaka says, if there is no question, then it's okay. If you ask a question, then if direct you can ask question, you ask somebody to ask the question. They hint other person to ask. Anyhow, very successful of this session, and thank you very much for scholars and wonderful papers presented. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, panelists of the second technical session. I request Shri Abhijit Haldar, Director General of IBC, to please come on the dais and felicitate our speakers. First, moderator, Venerable Dr. Dhamma Jyoti, Associate Professor, Navanalanda Mahavihara, Nalanda, Bihar. Our speakers, Professor Mahesh Ashok Devkar, Head of the Department of Pali and Buddhist Studies, Savitribai Phule, Pune University. Dr. Anirban Das, Director, National Manuscript Mission, IGNCA, New Delhi. Professor Siddharth Singh, Senior Professor and Head of Department of Pali and Buddhist Studies, BHU, Varanasi. And Dr. Pranshu Samadarshi, Assistant Professor, School of Buddhist Studies, Nalanda University, Bihar. Thank you, panelists. I now request our Director General, sir, to please deliver the vote of thanks.
Namo Buddhaya. It's been a very long day for all of you. It started with a very important program, and I'm sure all of you will appreciate the fact and agree with me that the speech of our Honorable Prime Minister was really rich in content and full of sentiments and feelings. I spoke to several venerables here, and they all felt that the Honorable Prime Minister really spoke his mind on this day. We could see that he was so elated seeing many venerables here that his security actually was disturbed because their drill was that he should not come down to the stage, he should exit from there. But after seeing the venerables, he decided to go into this particular alley. And they were all very disturbed, because they have a very strict drill. But that shows the excitement which he had and the kind of blessings he wanted to get from the venerable monks here. And I think that's a very big gesture on behalf of the Honorable Prime Minister to reach out to all of you and express his feelings very openly and freely. For all of us here, this is a very important day, not only because we are marking the Abhidhamma Day, but also because Pali has been declared recently as a classical language. And as the Prime Minister mentioned, language is not just a medium of communication, but it is the soul of any country's culture and heritage. He also mentioned that as part of Renaissance and Buddha's legacy, India is going through a cultural and heritage-based revolution. And many of us here, speakers, mentioned about the new revolution in Buddhism or in Buddha Dhamma in India. Language, I don't have to explain, all of you know, has tremendous value. It changes civilizations, it changes your culture, it changes your tradition, it changes your outlook towards the world. And Pali, as you heard all the experts speak here, was in existence in India, has been in existence in India. And like one of our colleagues mentioned here, that he probably didn't have an idea whether Pali was a classical language or not, because Pali is in existence. In places like Siam in Thailand, examinations are held in this language. In Thailand, in Myanmar, the same thing happens. There are exams which are held in Pali language. The influence of the language on Sinhalese language is very, very much. It's evident, in fact, very similar to Pali when you listen to somebody speaking in Sinhala language from Sri Lanka. And of course, the language has been studied, experimented upon, researched in different parts of the world. As you heard our professors here speaking about how it has expanded in Europe, in US, there are universities which have been studying and doing research in this language. And the root or the source from where the language has evolved, which is our land, for so many years, we ignored the language. And it is a great, great occasion that the language has been declared as a classical language. The fallout is going to be immense. I've been talking to various academicians, and once again, I think we were talking about how private organizations, etc., have been showing interest in developing this language. There is a lot of scope. And the advantage will be that the gaps which are there in teachings of the Buddha, in the Pali form and in the different forms in which they exist today, there is always a gap in the transmission of message from one language to the other to the third. And this is what has happened here. From Pali, a lot of teachings have been translated into different languages, and probably today the meaning and the essence which we have of these teachings are not the original. So having declared the language as a classified language, the biggest advantage will be that you will have direct access to the language, to the source. And I'm sure a lot of gaps, a lot of inadequacies which exist will be filled. At the same time, various areas which are associated with meditation, for instance, research, preservation, conservation, all of these areas will be impacted favorably, positively, because of the language being declared as a classical language. In meditation practices, there are very subtle nuances which are used, which are from Pali. And unless you know them properly, or the deep meaning of them, it is going to be difficult to understand what are you practicing. I also anticipate several research faculties emerging in different universities. I expect schools to take the initiative, just as they do in the case of Sanskrit, to start Pali language, not to force anyone, but to leave it to the student to understand. And I'm sure once they get into it, they'll realize the essence of this language, which takes them towards the teachings of the Buddha, which has to deal with the difficulties, the challenges that we face in today's world. I will not take much time now, and I'm sure most of you are tired and would be looking forward to winding up the day. But most important and most significant, I would like to thank all the venerables who are present here. Their blessings have been with us. And at the end of this day, in culmination, I can say it has been a fantastic and one of the finest programs with the involvement of the Honorable Prime Minister. You will see the reports in the media. The coverage is vast and extensive. I was just watching. And the blessings of all of you venerables is always there with us for ensuring such programs are successful. I would also like to, of course, thank the most important guest, the Honorable Prime Minister, who, in spite of his very, very tight schedule, managed to grace this occasion, wholeheartedly speaking out his mind. Of course, he had a tight schedule today. We had a 1.5-hour program organized, which we had to cut down severely, bring it down to almost little less than an hour. But the fact is that Honorable Prime Minister was determined to come and speak here on this important occasion. And that was very critical for us. I also take this opportunity to thank the Honorable Minister for Culture and Tourism, Shri Gajendra Shekhawat, and also Honorable Minister for Parliamentary Affairs and Minority Affairs, Shri Kiran Rijiju. Shri Kiran Rijiju ji has been very close to us, to the IBC in fact, and always guides us, always advises us on any activity which is associated and related to Buddhism. We find a strong support in him, always. And it's always a pleasure to have him on any of our event. The venerables who participated in the Chivardhan, at short notice, they all came from different places. We wanted exactly all of them to be here in the 6 chairs, and all of them agreed. In spite of their tight schedule, they cancelled some events and activities in different cities, and they were here sitting in these 6 chairs. So Most Venerable Ithika Mahathera, Venerable Dr. Dhamma Jyoti, Venerable Panya Rakhita, His Eminence 7th Kyabje Ling Rinpoche, His Eminence 13th Kuntaling Rinpoche, and Padma Shri Guru Rinpoche ji. Thanks to all of them for participating in this event. Most Venerable Rahula Bante ji has always been very supportive of us. And I must mention this, that, India is a large country. When you talk about language, when you talk about Buddhism, we as IBC, we have been focusing on various activities in the region around Delhi, Sarnath, Bodh Gaya. But we did not tread much towards the west into Maharashtra. But last month we had 2 programs in Mumbai, back to back. And of course, the blessings of Venerable Rahula Banteji was there, his support. With that, we moved into Maharashtra in a big way with the participation of lots of organizations from Maharashtra. So we have managed to spread our wings to Maharashtra, and we are slowly planning to move to Northeast and then the South also. So you will probably see us in different locations. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank Professor Bimlender Kumarji for making a wonderful presentation on the meaning of Pali language, and also all the monks who participated in the Dhamma Sangani Matika Path. This is the first time a lot of people would have heard Pali as it sounds while it is chanted. Thank you very much to Venerable Dhamma Jyoti ji, who moderated one of the sessions, and all the participants in both the panels. I cannot go through each one of them. They are all brilliant. They are fantastic in their own ways. And we are very, very thankful to all of you to be present here among us. In the end, the media and all our friends, scholars, academicians and students who have come from far off, I know that students have come from as far as Meerut, from Greater Noida, etc. Thank you all. And I think I will not be allowed to get off this stage unless I thank my own team, Team IBC, which has really slogged out the last 5-6 days. The notice for this event at this scale was received by us about 5 or 6 days back. And in 6 days' time, or actually 5 days' time, to get this up and running and do a show like this, I think I'm proud to be part of a team or lead a team along with my Secretary General, which is able to deliver this quality product in such short time. And I think it's more than their hard work, it is the blessing of the Buddha who's sitting there. It is always the blessing of the Buddha. He is there somewhere. Whenever a program of this nature happens, when we are against time, against a lot of challenges, we sincerely feel it is His presence which makes us do this. Thank you very much for being part of us. We'll see you more around. Thank you. Namo Buddhaya.
Everyone, a very good evening to all of you. Refreshments are being served outside. Please have a good evening.